Here a minute ago. I am back now. Um, but now I need to do it on Instagram too. Okay, hold on. This is going to work this time. For some reason, my mic kept going off, and I don't know why. Hello, I'm back. I am back, and welcome, because we're going to delete whatever I just did. Welcome to my weekly adoption roundup. Take two. Actually, it's three. Take three. Welcome to my weekly adoption roundup, where you will learn what's been happening in the world of adoption this week, in my world. And I like to start with a win. And my win for the week is that I was put in touch with this wonderful nonprofit organization in Ohio that helps with post adoption services for adoptive families. Kinship families, adoptive families, foster families, and helps with all sorts of resources. And one of the resources that they help with is to apply for a post-adoption services grant. Now, this grant is accessible, is offered to families with children who have any sort of disability that requires them to need therapeutic services. So it got me thinking. First of all, the first time I called a couple years ago, they said, no, you don't qualify. And that was about it. They basically said, don't waste my time. But now there's this organization who actually helps you navigate the whole thing. And she was very encouraging. So it got me thinking, what other post-adoption services around this country are available that people may or may not know about? So I am asking you, do you know about any post-adoption services in your area that you can share with us? And we'll be putting together a list of those. So I'm excited because a disability can range from ADHD to anxiety to, um, you know, maybe drug exposure or severe learning disabilities, anything. And hopefully I'll be getting a grant so that we can find and connected with a good adoption competent therapist. Wouldn't that be nice? Okay. So every week on my weekly adoption roundup show, I talk about whatever has come up throughout the week within our community or things we have read online. So every week when our team gets together, I ask, what have your clients been talking about? And for some reason, I have a really bad connection on Instagram. I don't know why. But what has been coming up? So, one of the things that was brought up, which is brought up a lot, is the cost of adoption. Now, unfortunately, around the world, costs have been rising so much. And I would say to be safe, $50,000 to $60,000 is where you would love to be. And maybe 45 to 60. Now, what does that include? That includes if you're going to hire a consultant to help navigate your journey, which I highly recommend. And my favorite is RG Adoption Consulting. And I might be a little biased, but that's my favorite. And that could range anywhere from $3,000 to $10,000. That includes the cost of your home study, which I think would range anywhere from about $800 to $5,000. And that's going to depend a lot on your state, your county, the place that you're getting it done through. So that cost will range. And then it can include agency application fees, the cost of whatever adoption you connect with, which includes birth mother expenses involved in that or expectant mother expenses, legal, travel, finalization, which is legal too. So it kind of soup to nuts includes everything. So if you call an agency and they say, "Oh, we're only 20, our fee is only $25,000." Well, are you just giving me one piece of it? Have you included birth mother expenses in there? Have you included legal in there? Like, what does that include? And I think a lot of people forget to ask that question. So if I'm talking on the phone with someone and someone's like, wow, why are you telling me it's so high? But when I called this agency, they told me only $30,000. And I said, well, what does that include? So you really have to know what questions to ask when you're calling an adoption agency. It's super, super important that you know what they're telling you. And unfortunately, a lot of people will only tell you a little piece of it. So 50 to 60,000 is what I think you would comfortably be able to move forward with and successfully adopt, maybe even with a couple dollars left over at the end for diapers. So those are the fees. When do you need the fees? Well, you'll need the fees for your adoption consultant and for your home study right when you start. If you are working with a consultant, which I highly recommend, and my favorite is RG Adoption Consulting, usually the cost of a profile is included in your fees. If not, I highly recommend a professional adoption profile designer, which will probably land you around anywhere from 900 to 1500. I think that's a safe range, 900 to 1500. Which you would need close to after you like either finish your home study. Our preference, if you work with a consultant, our preference is to start it while you're in the midst of the home study so that timing wise, it all works out well. Now, risk. Who takes on the risk if you have a fall through? Well, that depends. It's really hard to compare apples to apples in the adoption world, as you may have figured out or may not have if you're just starting out. Some agencies have a very low upfront fee, anywhere from 0 to, let's call it 3,500 on the high end, right? So with that fee structure, you can sign up with multiple agencies, which we recommend, and that's our whole structure. Some agencies charge $25,000 to sign up with them. Hold on, please. There is not a right or wrong. I like the former strategy better, but that is up to you. Now, most agencies are not going to take the risk of the money lost because of a disrupted adoption. Some of them will. The ones that do tend to be the ones that cost a lot of money up front, right? So there are a few really big agencies that charge a lot of money up front that will take on that risk if there is a fall through. And that might be very appealing to you. And I don't blame you. Then there is the typical thing that I see is that when there is a disrupted adoption, you are the majority of the time going to lose the money that has already been spent, meaning any of the expected mother expenses or birth mother expenses. So that's already been spent and lost. And that could be a huge chunk of change. I'd say average loss amount is between $10,000 and $15,000. It's a lot of money. Now, some agencies will say you lose a percentage. We have a flat fee for everybody, and you'll lose a percentage of that. Some agencies will say you'll lose everything spent plus X amount of the agency fee. Some agencies will say you lose X amount and the rest will roll over into another adoption situation where you will then pay less than you originally paid when you match. so that you're kind of stuck with that one agency. So there's so many different ways. Um, People who say, well, why? I've heard people say, well, why should that be our risk if they decide to parent? And to that, I want you to remember, or I want to remind you what adoption really is when you match. What it truly is an expectant mom coming in and making an adoption plan that and really, as she's working through all of her options, she believes at that time that this is the best option for her. But it's not a 100% commitment by any means. She has every right to change her mind. Her decision to make a plan is not legally binding. Now, as the hopeful parent, you are entering into a relationship where she has chosen you should she decide to go through with her plan. And you are saying, you know what? We will support you. We will support you as you're going through your pregnancy. I keep pausing because Instagram keeps pausing on me. Well, I'll keep going. We are committed to you should you decide to place. And in the meantime, we will support you throughout your pregnancy. And we will be here gladly with open arms should you decide this is indeed the best decision for you. And if it's not, we understand the risks involved. Okay. So financially and emotionally, there is always a pretty big risk involved. Always worth it in the end if you stick with it. How often does that happen? I'd say industry wide, probably still about 25% is what I'm going to guess. So you just have to really understand what you are walking into and what this journey is really about, what you're really committing to, and that nothing is guaranteed. Okay. So enough about finances and all of that and the costs and the fees and the risks. The other thing that keeps coming up in conversation is the need for more Black couples to adopt. There has been, and there continues to be a huge need for specifically Black or biracial couples to adopt Black and biracial babies, where the expectant mother is asking for people who will, at least on some level, look like her child. So some people are surprised to hear that, but yeah, there really is not a lot of families to choose from. There are a lot more single Black women than there are Black couples and biracial couples. And sometimes moms just aren't open to single as they are with couples. Yeah, that's really what I had today. So we went over finances, the cost in total, how that breaks out, when you need the money, the risks involved, why you might have that kind of a risk, what that looks like, and the need for Black families. So we would be honored to work with you or just answer any of your questions about the adoption journey. So ask in the comments, DM me, go to our website, sign up for a consult, message me, whatever. Until next week on the weekly adoption roundup, have a wonderful wonderful weekend. And remember to stay on the adoption roadmap. If you veer off, that's okay. Come back on and keep moving forward. Don't lose hope. I'll see you next Friday. Bye.